Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Drinking in the Northwest. I am your host, Donnie, and as you can see, I'm in a little different location today. I'm actually in Friday Harbor, Washington. It's part of my work day. I'm fortunate enough to get to come out to the San Juan Islands 3 days a week, and I have a little extra time while I'm waiting for my boat, so I thought I'd introduce you to the next video. We all have gone to breweries on land. But how many have gone to a brewery at sea? That's right. Today's video, we're talking about Carnival Cruise Lines. We're talking about Red Frog Brewery and Pub. We're talking about Parched Pig IPA. We went on a cruise in September. We did a back-to-back. We did 14 days on the Carnival Mardi Gras. This was our second time on it. It has a brewery on. In 3 weeks, we're going to the Mexican Riviera. We're going to go to Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta, and Mazatlan. Now we're going to be on the Carnival Panorama for that one. That also has a brewery on it. So in 2017, Carnival Cruise Lines introduced Red Frog Pub and Brewery on the Carnival Vista, and it was very popular. So now it's on 5 ships. It's on the Horizon and the Panorama, which are all the same class ship as the Vista. And it's also on the Carnival Mardi Gras, which we've been on, the Carnival Celebration, which came after that, and then the brand new Jubilee, which just sailed out for the first time yesterday. So they're going to have breweries on it. I did a brewery tour. I did a lot of filming on there. It was a neat experience. All the beer that's brewed on the ship is what's in the taps. They partnered with Brew Hub in Lakeland, Florida, which is basically a contracting thing. They got about 100,000 barrel system in Lakeland, Florida that they contract with. So they do all their cans. All the ships you can get all the canned beer, the Parched Pig, West Coast IPA, they got a Caribbean Wheat, they got a Toasted Amber, and they got a Beach Lager. And then for us, we got to try, that was released on the ship actually while we were sailing, was a double IPA, which was fantastic, and also a sour, which was really neat. We got to taste that right out of the tank. So I did get some video of that. So anyways, let's go do this. You guys wanna? Let's go check out what it's like to have a brewery on a ship. Take an anchor, brewery tour. Gonna get started in about 5 minutes. Let's check out the brewery on the ship.
We're going to be drinking a lot of beers today, so buckle up for that. My name is Austin. I'm the brewmaster here on the Mardi Gras. I'll also be your tour guide today. Now, before we get started, I'd like to let everybody know that the tour is going to be about 2 hours long. Okay? You got to have 2 hours because we're going to drink everything that we do here, and we're going to drink all the beers that we make here on board. So buckle up. You're not leaving thirsty. Because we're drinking all these beers, we do charge for the tour. We charge for the beers the tour is on us, right? There is a charge of $30 unless you guys have a cheers package, in which case it's 25% off of that, so math. But with that, you guys are going to get all these beers, you guys are going to get some souvenir glasses, and you guys are going to get some beer for later. Good deal, right? Now, it's a football Sunday. We're not going to be doing the tour in here. I'm not shouting over this the whole time. We have our own little private spot set up outside where we can relax, talk about beer, and drink the beer. Nice and easy, okay? So, we'll give these guys like another minute or so to get here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to head outside, just on the lanai here, get some glasses set up in case we get some wider variety of flavors and styles, more historically relevant and more societally impactful. If I cannot convince you that beer is better by the end of this tour, you are more than welcome to leave wrong. Okay? It's up to you guys. We don't want to arrive at Nassau tomorrow being incorrect. Okay? So, we're going to start with the 4 beers on your placemats in front of you guys. We're going to be working from left to right today. And like I said before, when Hutu brings these pitchers out here, as soon as they hit your tables, don't be shy. There's more than enough of these pitchers for everybody. So feel free to begin pouring. But we're going to be working from left to right. Then we're going to do some cool seasonal stuff. We're going to head inside the brewery. You guys are going to get to pour some beers out of tanks. That'll be really fun too, right? Now, I've got to convince you guys that beer is better, and the best way that I found to do that is start with some fun beer history. And I love history. I'm a big history nerd, especially when it comes to beer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. All right, beer is the oldest fermented beverage on the planet. It's the oldest fermented beverage. We have our first beer recipes from 7000 BC. We found some tablets in ancient Samaria, that's present-day Iraq, Iran, and it has this tablet with 4 recipes on it. It tells you what to mix, how to mix it, where to store it, which gods to pray to, all the fun stuff to make this stuff we now call beer. Well, that was the first time we wrote it down. So a bunch of archaeologists said we had to have been doing it before then. So they've been going to these old digs, or these old civilizations, doing some digs, nerdy carbon dating stuff. And what Dr. Jones and his crew have found out is that we've actually been fermenting grains as far back as 10,000 BC. Right? That's over 5,000 years older than wine. So beer one, wine nothing. That's cool. Okay? Now, back in 10,000 BC, we were not drinking beer because we were sailing around the Caribbean on a cruise ship. We weren't watching football on Sundays. We weren't doing it because some bearded guy was rambling beer facts at us, right? We were drinking beer 12,000 years ago because it saved our lives. It's the only way we could drink water. Okay? Back then, we're hunters and gatherers. Wherever food goes, we follow it. Okay? So the saber-toothed tigers are running around. We catch them. We throw a spear at them. Boom! Well, whatever local watering hole they were near, we're drinking from it. Okay? That wasn't always a good thing for us. Bacteria, pathogens, all sorts of nastiness was getting you really sick. And it wasn't very good for us. We were dying by like 22, right? You can only drink for 1 year legally. Now, what some very lucky individuals discovered was that if you collected some grains, those grains got wet, and prayed to the right people, magic bubbles would start happening. Well, you could drink that. They must have been very desperate because they drank this for the first time. What they found is it didn't make them sick. Okay? Now, a lot of you guys might go, well, yeah, there's alcohol in beer, duh. But the beers of old were used for hydration. They weren't used for this boozing effect that we use them for today. In fact, the beers of old didn't really have much alcohol, 0.5% maybe. Those beers of old were very acidic. Okay? Has anybody here had a sour beer before? We're going to try one today if you have not. So buckle up. Hopefully you guys like sour beers. If you don't, you're dead to me. It's my favorite style of beer. But the acidity of today's sour beers is very akin to those beers 12,000 years ago. And we were essentially pickling the water, pickling the grains, creating this delicious environment that bad stuff couldn't live in. You drink it, survive, hydrate, beautiful. All of a sudden, we started this whole civilization thing. We said, hey, let's stop chasing the animals, let's put them in fences, and let's grow stuff to brew. A lot of people might say, no, we stopped for grains that we had, we were making bread and all that. No, we didn't have leavened bread for another 4,000 years after we had started brewing in these civilizations. That's how old beer is, and that's why we settled down to this agricultural society that we are today. So thank you, beer. We didn't settle for grapes, we settled for grains to brew with, right? Now, as we settled down, we started playing around, trying new stuff, screwing up from time to time, and then those beers became alcoholic, okay? They went from that 0.5%, 5, 10, 15%. It was already a very life-sustaining product, but now it's making you feel really good. This enshrined it in many early cultures, early religions, early seances, what have you, because we had no idea what the effects of alcohol were. We're praying, these bubbles are happening, now it's making us feel really good, it's seeing to the other side. No, we know it is being drunk nowadays, but back then, no, it's wildly spiritual. And tons of cultures all across the globe were doing this, okay? I like to just pick a couple on different sides of the globe just to show you guys how global brewing actually was. Real quick though, here's our toasted amber. You guys look thirsty. You guys need to be hydrated out. Okay? Now, we're starting with, listening to me talk is very thirsty work. I can assure you of that. Now, this toasted amber is one of our core beers here. We'll talk a little bit more about this beer in a little bit, but I'll give you a quick little synopsis of it. It's 5.5%. You're going to taste a lot of really cool caramel notes, a little bit of like honey biscuit notes. And this is one of our core beers here, because I don't know if you guys know, this is a barbecue restaurant. This beer pairs so perfectly with the barbecue, okay? It's way more akin to an English amber or European amber as opposed to an American one, so it's not bitter, okay? It's gonna have this nice sweet caramel characteristic, but it's gonna be extremely light. because we want you guys to be able to enjoy 2 or 3 racks of ribs and 6 or 7 beers, right? This is a really good beer to help sort of complement the barbecue flavors here on board. Now, back to those early cultures that we're drinking. Cheers. 3 total to 5. And the 6th one will be out later this year, the Jubilee, which will be sailing out of Galveston. Now, we started brewing on ships, and we were one of the first people to really start doing it. The only people on this side of the globe, this hemisphere, actually doing it, and there's only 5 current ships that are doing this. Now, while you guys are on board one of these really cool ships, these 5 ships, any draft beer that you guys are drinking, the Parched Pig or Thirsty Frog brand, is coming from our brewery. Okay? So whether you're at Serenity, in the casino, at the Tides Bar, Big and Anchor, obviously, you are drinking beer that was made by Putu and myself right here in this brewery. Now, some of you guys may prefer the cans. Totally fine. It's the same recipes. But those aren't produced on board. Okay? We have a shoreside facility that makes all of our canned products. Because we move, canning is very difficult. Okay? We also have we launched like 6 ships this year. I have my counts off. 24, 26, what I call the lame ships, the ones without the breweries, that need beer as well. We have to get those beers from the shoreside areas because there's no way I'm producing enough to satiate all of those guests. There's also no way logistically we can move these beers from these ships to all the other ones, right? We got ships all over the world. So, good on Carnival? Any questions about Carnival Brewing? Now, go back to the beer stories. Beer and boat stories, specifically. And I love beer and boat stories because you guys are on a floating brewery. Not many of those in the world. So let's talk about some cool boat and beer stuff. Now, who here has been to Plymouth Rock? Oh, I got a couple people. What did you think of Plymouth Rock? It sucks? Yeah, cool.
I was 7 and I don't really
remember.
There's 6.
So, Memphis?
We're not from Tennessee, but we love Tennessee.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh.
We're from Illinois.
From Illinois.
Close.
Sorry.
Okay.
It sucks.
Now, I'm from the great state of Tennessee. Yes, the home of moonshine. This is where it comes from. So I actually made moonshine in my high school chemistry class. Not like a Walter White Breaking Bad thing. More of like an actual experiment on distillation and fermentation. Okay?
Tastes good.
Plead the fifth. Now, yes, I started fermenting early, and I sort of fell in love with beer as a college student, right? I was a poor undergraduate at the real UT, the University of Tennessee, where I was studying microbiology and fermenting beers in my dorm rooms, in my college apartments, okay? I could afford a 30-rack of Natty Light, but I didn't want to. Okay? I wanted to make something and try something new, and it was a fun hobby for me, right? So I brew all the fun beers, and it sort of led me down this really cool road. Well, after my undergraduate, I went down to LSU for a doctorate in microbiology. I studied even more about this organic chemistry and biochemistry and molecular biology, all this nerdy fermentation stuff. Then I decided to take all of this wonderful information and use it to disappoint my mother and become a brewer on a cruise ship. So, when I talk about the fermentation of beers and how we can control it in the ways and areas we go, you have to believe me. You're a doctor, right? No, but it is inherently true. This is something that we're controlling in the brewing process more so than the other fermented beverages. Okay? This is what makes the styles of beer what they are. The different styles of yeast we use and how we treat them. Everybody here's had a Belgian beer, right? At some point, whether it's been a Blue Moon, Belgian single, double, triple, quad. These Belgian beers have a very distinct characteristic. The taste of banana, right? You can find this in Hefeweizens as well, even though it's not a Belgian beer. It is a Belgian style yeast that has that banana characteristic. Now, I promise you guys, we are not putting bananas, mashing them up like winemakers, okay? That banana characteristic is called isoamyl acetate, and it is actually produced by Belgian yeast at certain temperatures. We call this the cellar because I don't know if you guys remember where those Belgians used to ferment their beer. It was their basements, their cellars. Every single brewery pretty much has kept this tradition alive. Wherever we ferment our beer, we still call the cellar, even though we're not underground. This place is our cellar, okay? And in here we have 10 of these wonderful, wonderful fermentation vessels. Each one of these tanks can hold just over 300 gallons of beer. For my metric friends, it's 1,200 liters. And we have 10 of them here on board. And each single tank is like its own little environment, okay? Each tank, I control the pressure at which these beers ferment under. The little red digital readouts on the sides of the tanks are the temperature on the inside. How I control that, right? It's all in Celsius, so don't hurt your brain. So, each one of these tanks during fermentation is constantly controlled and monitored and all this fun stuff, and then we have to get it nice and cold, right? If you guys want to drink cold beer, we gotta carbonate it, get all those bubbles in there, make it nice and clarified, so we can control the temperature and make these beers nice and cold. The 4 beers actually in front of you guys here, not this one, are all really cold. You can see the condensation on the doors, right? These are essentially big kegs at this point, okay? They're insulated. They have a jacket on the inside that we pump a very cold glycol water mixture to help control our temperature of our beers, okay? Now, on board, we have 27 bars here. And all those bars draft beer comes from right here. The cool thing about the Pig and Anchor is that if you look at the last 2 beers on the end there, and everybody will have an opportunity to see, on the very bottom of those tanks, you'll see little black lines coming out of this guy, about shin height. Those run directly to our taps here. Okay, so when you order that smoked porter or that toasted amber, that noise that some of you guys were in here to hear, that pumping sound, was the sound of people ordering those beers. Okay, now we obviously keg our beer. Okay, we have to transport around the ship, so we do keg from some of these, but the porter and the amber are exclusively at this bar. So I just went ahead and put them in these big tanks so that we can serve here, right? We are now getting into the slower season, if you will. We never really have a slow season on Mardi Gras because it's such a beautiful ship with so much to offer. But our slow season here means that we're only going to go through about 450, 500 gallons of beer a week. That's about 1.5 of these tanks. Okay? Now, when all the children are on board during our busy season, there's actually fewer over 21 guests. But those over 21 guests have to deal with all the under 21 guests. So they drink a lot more. So we actually go through way more beer during our busy season. We go through a little more than 2 of these tanks per cruise. Okay? You guys are just like those pilgrims, except we're not going to kick you off because it's my job to make sure we have enough beer for our return journey to Canal, right?
Now you're feeding kegs off the last 2 right now. Do you switch as you have to do more? The wine's enough?
I will transport the beer over. Those are pretty much exclusively serving tanks over there at this point. We can move, but I choose not to because it's sort of out of the way. It's on that side. We're not walking and stepping over stuff, right? Now, if you guys have any questions about something you guys see in here, because I'm sure there's a lot that a lot of people are taking in, feel free to ask away.
Dude, that's like the longest beer here I've ever seen in my life.
The longest what?
No, just wait, man.
Yeah, you see that?
So, what we're going to do is we're actually going to pour a beer directly out of one of our tanks. And we're going to pour that double IPA straight out of the tank. And I'm going to trade spaces with you guys real quick. And it's super packed in here, I know. And I'm so sorry because we have a lot of people on the tour. And what we're going to pour out of is this guy right here. It's called a Stickel. It's named after some German guy. And it's got all these little coils. And it helps you pour from this high pressure, cold environment into a glass perfectly. You don't have to worry about tilting your beer like you do on tap. But because we won back-to-back world wars, and because this is the Pig and Anchor, this is called a pigtail. Okay? Most American brewers do call this a pigtail. So we're actually going to pour straight out of this, and you guys are going to do it. I'm just going to be standing here in case you guys forget the very important step that I'm going to go over here. Okay? There's a little black valve here, and this little black valve is just like the ones on your hose back home, right? Turn it, and it's parallel, and water comes out, and you close it and it stops coming out. The same concept applies here. When you turn it 90 degrees, beer comes out. When you are full, when your glass is full, return it to the perpendicular and closed position. If you don't, you will have very wet feet. Close the valve. That's the important piece, okay? Don't waste my beer, please. And there's gonna be a little thing underneath to catch a little bit of spillage because hopefully you guys don't actually cool this down. Officer Farva, whatever the guys.
Will you pour my beer?
Oh,
So I'm assuming this is your equivalent of younger.
yeah.
Whoops.
Shit.
And there went the spill tank.
Yep.
Now Putu has to clean.
Eh, he needed something to do today anyway.
So here's a list of some of the drinks you can get here. As you look at the bar, here's your meats and sides you can get here. They have a full bar. As you can see, they have a taps right there, but it's on the back side. The drinks you can get, they have terrapin here. They have the terrapin recreation, hazy little thing, the 4 parched pigs, island brewing, coastal lager. So yeah, they got a good selection. And then obviously in the back is that. So it's a neat place. They also have growlers, and you can get a sampler of all 4, which is kind of cool. Flip this around. So these are your 4 beers that they brew. Yeah, pretty neat. They have a mojito sour on the thing. Yeah, pretty fancy. I think I'm just gonna go with the basic Parched Pig IPA to West Coast IPA.